major clue, and could you guess the character we were going to be reading about today? But Christina guessed it. Little Red Riding Hood. Whoop, whoop. Yeah. Okay, so Little Red Riding Hood, the character and the stories have been around for a lot longer than you all probably realize, and way before your time. And so you might not even be familiar with some of the older stories that have to do with Little Red Riding Hood. Now, you all know about Little Red Riding Hood, though, yes?
Yeah.
Of course. Okay. So the first one, the first one I'm going to read is from Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales, and this was published in about, or they compiled them in about 1812 and 1815, that era, so very early on. And it goes like this. There was once a sweet little maid, much beloved by everybody, but most of all by her grandmother. You're laughing?
No, I just was about to sneeze.
Okay. Who never knew how to make enough of her. Once she sent her a little riding hood of red velvet. And as it was very becoming to her, and she never wore anything else, people called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Riding Hood, here are some cakes and a flask of wine for you to take to your grandmother. She is weak and ill, and they will do her good. Make haste, and start before it grows hot, and walk properly and nicely, and don't run, or you might fall and break the flask of wine, and there will be none left for grandmother. And when you go into her room, don't forget to say, 'Good morning,' instead of staring about you. I will make sure to take care," said Little Red Riding Hood to her mother, and gave her hand upon it. Now the grandmother lived away in the wood, half an hour's walk from the village. And when Little Red Riding Hood had reached the wood, she met the wolf. But as she did not know what a bad sort of animal he was, she did not feel frightened. Really? She couldn't tell? "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," said he. "Thank you, kindly wolf," answered she. "Where are you going so early, Little Red Riding Hood?" "To my grandmother's." "What are you carrying under your apron?" "Cakes and wine. We baked yesterday, and my grandmother is very weak and ill, so they will do her good and strengthen her." "Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "A quarter of an hour's walk from here. Her house stands beneath the 3 oaks, and you may know it by the hazel bushes," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Would you like me to draw a map?" No. The wolf thought to himself, "That tender young thing would be a delicious morsel, and would taste better than the old one. I must manage somehow to get both of them." Then he walked by Little Red Riding Hood a little while, and said, "Little Red Riding Hood, just look at the pretty flowers that are growing all around you, and I don't think you are listening to the song of the birds. You're posting along just as if you were going to school, and it is so delightful out here in the wood." Little Red Riding Hood glanced round her, and when she saw the sunbeams darting here and there through the trees, and lovely flowers everywhere, she thought to herself, "If I were to take a fresh nosegay to my grandmother, she would be very pleased. And it is so early in the day that I shall reach her in plenty of time." And so she ran about in the wood, looking for flowers, and as she picked one, she saw a still prettier one a little farther off, and so she went farther and farther into the wood. But the wolf went straight to grandmother's house, and knocked at the door. "Who is there?" cried the grandmother. "Little Red Riding Hood," he answered, "and I have brought you some cake and wine. Please open the door." "Lift the latch," cried the grandmother. "I am too feeble to get up." So the wolf lifted the latch, and the door flew open, and he fell on the grandmother and ate her up without saying one word. Not even yum.
A big mouth.
Then he drew on her clothes, put on her cap, lay down in her bed, and drew the curtains. Little Red Riding Hood was all this time running about among the flowers, and when she had gathered as many as she could hold, she remembered her grandmother and set off to go to her. She was surprised to find the door standing open, and when she came inside, she felt very strange and thought to herself, "Oh dear, how uncomfortable I feel, and I was so glad this morning to go to my grandmother." Her little voice was saying, "Don't go in, don't go in." And when she said, "Good morning," there was no answer. Then she went up to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay the grandmother, with her cap pulled over her eyes so that she looked very odd. "Oh, grandmother, what large ears you have, the better to hear with." "Oh, grandmother, what great eyes you have, the better to see with." "Oh, grandmother, what large hands you have, the better to take hold of you with." "But, grandmother, what a terrible large mouth you have, the better to devour you." And no sooner had the wolf said it than he made one bound from the bed and swallowed up poor Little Red Riding Hood. Then the wolf, having satisfied his hunger, lay down again in the bed, went to sleep, and began to snore loudly. The huntsman heard him as he was passing by the house and thought, "How the old woman snores! I had better see if there's anything the matter with her." Then he went into the room, walked up to the bed, and saw the wolf lying there. "At last I find you, you old sinner," said he. "I've been looking for you a long time." And he made up his mind that the wolf had swallowed the grandmother whole, and that she may yet be saved. So he did not fire, but took a pair of shears and began to slit up the wolf's body. When he made a few snips, Little Red Riding Hood appeared, and after a few more snips, she jumped out and cried, "Oh dear, how frightened I've been! It's so dark inside the wolf." And then out came the old grandmother, still living and breathing, but Little Red Riding Hood went and quickly fetched some large stones, with which she filled the wolf's body, so that when he waked up and was going to rush away, the stones were so heavy that he sank down and fell dead. And I'm going to stop there, but if you want to read the rest of it, you can check this book out. What it goes on to is a part that sounds kind of like a different story. If you know it, let me please say. But another wolf comes along, and oh wait, sorry. I skipped out a little part that I should read to you because it's important in the very last sentence. They were all very pleased. The huntsman took off the wolf's skin and carried it home. The grandmother ate the cakes and drank the wine and held up her head again. And Little Red Riding Hood said to herself that she would never more stray about in the wood alone and would mind what her mother told her. So that's important to get that part. That's definitely important. Yeah. But it does go on where another wolf comes, because that wolf is dead, another wolf comes along in a few days or so, and climbs up on the roof. And so to get rid of it, they make some soup that's very, has a really good aroma. So the wolf sort of follows the smell, falls into a trough, and dies.
So like the 3 Little Pigs.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, isn't it? So sort of a mishmash of
was
that.
Was he coming back for revenge?
I don't know. Maybe it was a friend. Yeah.
Maybe they just attracted. Wasn't just attracted to him.
Yeah, just some other wolf. Yeah. Okay, so there's another version that we have. This was from the Blue Fairy book, and this was published later in the 1800s, I think about 1889. It was edited by Andrew Lang, the Blue Fairy book, and I'll show you the cover after I read it to you, because it's kind of a cute book. There's actually a whole series, the Red Book, the Green Book, the Blue Book, all with, hundreds of fairy tales. It's very cool. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there lived in a certain village a little country girl. The prettiest creature was ever seen. Her mother was excessively fond of her, and her grandmother doted on her still more. This good woman had made for her a little Red Riding Hood, which became the girl so extremely well that everybody called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother, having made some custards, said to her, "Go, my dear, and see how thy grandmamma does, for I hear she has been very ill. Carry her a custard and this little pot of butter." Little Red Riding Hood set out immediately to go to her grandmother, who lived in another village. As she was going through the woods, she met with Gaffer Wolf, who had a very great mind to eat her up, but he dared not, because of some faggot makers hard by in the forest. He asked her whither she was going. The poor child, who did not know that it was dangerous to stay and hear a wolf talk, said to him, "I am going to see my grandmamma and carry her a custard and a little pot of butter from my mamma." "Does she live far off?" said the wolf. "Oh, aye," answered Little Red Riding Hood. "It is beyond that mill you see there, at that first house in the village." "Well, and I will go see her too. I'll go this way, you go that, and we shall see who will be there soonest." The wolf began to run as fast as he could, taking the nearest way, and the little girl went by that furthest about, diverting herself in gathering nuts, running after butterflies and making nosegays of such little flowers as she met with. The wolf was not long before he got to the old woman's house. He knocked at the door. Tap, tap. "Who's there?" "Your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf, counterfeiting her voice, "who has brought you a custard and a little pot of butter sent you by Mamma." The poor grandmother, who was in bed because she was somewhat ill, cried out, "Pull the bobbin and the latch will come up." The wolf pulled the bobbin and the door opened, and then presently he fell upon the good woman and ate her up in a moment, for it was above 3 days that he had not touched a bit. He then shut the door and went into the grandmother's bed, expecting Little Red Riding Hood, who came some time afterward and knocked at the door. Tap, tap. "Who's there?" Little Red Riding Hood, hearing the big voice of the wolf, was at first afraid, but believing her grandmother had got a cold and was hoarse, answered, "'Tis your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood, who has brought you a custard and a little pot of butter Mamma sends you." The wolf cried out to her, softening his voice as much as he could, "Pull the bobbin and the latch will go up." Little Red Riding Hood pulled the bobbin and the door opened. The wolf, seeing her come in, said to her, hiding himself under the bedclothes, "Put the custard and the little pot of butter upon the stool and come and lie down with me." Little Red Riding Hood undressed herself and went into bed. Gosh. Where, being greatly amazed to see how her grandmother looked in her nightclothes, she said to her, "Grandmamma, what great arms you have got!" "That is the better to hug thee, my dear." "Grandmamma, what great legs you have got!" That is to run the better, my child." "Grandmamma, what great ears you have got!" "That is to hear the better, my child." "Grandmamma, what great eyes you have got!" "It is to see the better, my child." "Grandmamma, what great teeth you have got!" "That is to eat thee up." And saying these words, this wicked wolf fell upon Little Red Riding Hood and ate her all up. The end.
Bucky's story.
That is?
I don't know the other one with Bucky's story.
Oh, really? Huh.
The other one too.
That's the cover. That's kind of cute, huh?
That's deceiving. It's so cute.
I know, it's
And
so
there's no
cute.
happy
Doesn't
ending
seem
to
like
that little
this
story.
one.
And you know, if we're used to sort of Disney kind of stories too, we're used to stories that have much happier endings.
Yeah.
Yes, Miss Haley?
I like the other story better. There was the hero. in
Exactly. The huntsman is the hero,
Yeah.
comes along and
Well, that was better.
It's interesting that the Grimm's version has a happy ending, whereas this other one does not.
I was
and they're
surprised.
usually
Exactly.
much
Yeah.
darker and twisted.
I was kind of surprised by
Yeah,
that too.
that is weird.
Yeah.
Because that other one was just like dead board, just ended.
Well,
as they
no,
got
it's not really
into-
twist. The other ones aren't really twisted.
There's no happy ending.
Never mind. Yeah, I
It
was
just-
like, I was
it
thinking of
just
something
moved.
else. Never mind. I was thinking of something else.
Wrong thought.
Well, this character has
Long
been
story.
so popular that there have been a lot of things sort of based on it. Are you all familiar with anything that that has used that character that's not exactly the same, but in some
Yeah.
other way?
Yes.
What, Julie?
The musical Into the Woods.
Oh, that's good.
And so, like Little Red, she's still Little Red,
Uh-huh.
except she's more manipulative and more like, well, I could get my way, and she knows how to talk. And so
But you know what? At the beginning of this one, did you hear about how excessively? I mean, everybody just was excessively fond of her. I'm wondering if she wasn't kind of maybe manipulative too,
Yeah, and
getting what
so
she wants. But go
I
ahead.
was like, the whole movie, well, not the whole movie, and like at the beginning of the movie, she goes into like this baker shop and everything, and she's just like, oh, I'm hungry, and she starts getting all these baked goods, and she's like piling up, and she's like, do you guys have a basket? And then there's a couple, and
Oh, so
then,
that's where her basket came
yeah,
out,
that's
is
where
the
the
baker's
basket
basket.
is, because she was like holding
Oh,
it.
that makes sense.
And so then she's all like, do you guys have a basket? And then the girl's like, yeah, here you go. And then the guy's all, no, what are you doing? And then she's just like, be quiet. Like,
Not yet.
give her all this stuff. And she's like,
Okay.
oh.
She's
I
so
can
sweet
do
and
this.
cute. She's so
Yeah,
cute.
So she just like goes on her way with her basket. That's where she gets the basket, and she gets the goodies for her grandmother from the bakery
Oh
shop.
wow. See, I never knew that part of it, like the whole like before the story.
Well, that's from a musical, so.
That's that one version.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Well, there's a new there's a series that middle schoolers this is kind of popular with, Ever After High, and Red here, she's not really Red, she's called Cerise, but she's not, is anyone familiar with this?
Me and Miss Haley like them a lot. That is actually, Cerise is the daughter of Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf together.
Well, plot twist.
Yeah. So
In that story, she climbed into bed with us.
So that's the beginning, and now you have a pretty little girl daughter.
See, they took all these stories and put them into one. The whole story makes sense.
Yeah.
They've done. The whole bakery part,
Oh my
you
gosh.
know, the after.
What about any others? Anything else?
I watch a show on ABC called Once Upon a Time, and in there, their character of Little Red Riding Hood, her name is Red, and she has her red cape, and she usually wears some kind of red, like a red skirt, something. But she is actually the wolf, so she's like a werewolf in the show. And so her cape is magical, and it was given to her by her grandma, trying to protect her, and she's supposed to wear it, and then she won't change when it comes to that time of the month. But she doesn't, because she kills people, including like her love of her life, and then she goes crazy and runs away with Snow White. And
So that's
and apparently her mother is also a werewolf. Yes. So, and then you get to see her other side of her too, though, because like she doesn't want to be bad. She just. That's just the way she's cursed. She's cursed, and she wasn't raised knowing, whereas her mom like fully knows and goes out and kills on purpose. But now she wasn't raised that way. She doesn't know that even doing it. She's back home when she wakes up. She doesn't know that it's her that gets out and kills people.
Oh my goodness.
So she feels guilty about that.
So the cape is a curse. That's interesting because maybe it is for Red and the other stories too, in a way, because the wolf really spots her, in that red cape on her. She really stands out.
Yeah.
So, Miss Haley, I know that you know a movie that you like that has Little Red Riding Hood. What's it called?
I can't say it.
Hoodwinked?
Yes.
And that is a really cute, if you haven't seen that movie, you have to see it. It's so cute. The animation is sort of, they look like Hummel figurines, if you're familiar with that. It's so cute, and they have the huntsman, he yodels, and he wants to be an actor. But it's so funny because it shows the whole story from each character's standpoint, point of view. Yeah,
So not just like one point of view.
Exactly,
but all of
exactly.
them.
So when Red is going through the forest, she's first of all singing, and all the animals come along with her. But then she gets into a part of the forest that seems really scary with these different noises and all. But when we see it from the wolf's point of view, the wolf is actually, he's a reporter. He's not even really scary. But these funny things happen that to her seem scary, but are just a normal thing. Like he has a friend who's a squirrel who helps him, and the squirrel steps on something and swallows a camera, and a flash goes off. We'll see from her point of view, she sees this flash, and she hears him growl, the wolf, because he just exclaimed, and that's what he sounded like, and so it's really hilarious. You've got to see it, and who doesn't like Anne Hathaway as the Little Red Riding Hood? That's her voice. So, yes, Miss Haley?
The wolf was hungry in that movie. That's why.
In Hoodwinked?
Yes.
Yes, but he didn't eat any of the people, though.
No.
He just, I think, ate some baked goods. I think he wanted the stuff that was in the basket, really, because it was supposed to be really good. Does anybody else have any other? You weren't even really that familiar with.
Yeah, I wasn't.
You were-
really. I've never heard of that movie, or I've seen Once Upon a Time a
Really?
couple times, but
So do you think you might now look
Yeah.
into some of these things, kind of interest?
especially because like hearing those different stories and like hearing all the spin-offs and everything.
And that's true of so many characters. I mean, we see that in Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, just with so many characters. It's really kind of interesting once you start getting into it and really seeing how people have come up with offshoot stories that are so different and really entertaining.
I don't think I've been aware though of one story that had so many different stories made up to go along with the same basis of it. I mean, with all these stories just today, I haven't.
Well,
heard
when
of
I
one
first
crazy.
started getting it together, I was thinking of the stories and then thinking of that same thing, and kind of was surprised in a way that I was able to come up with so many different things that featured Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was. Some of them were kind of cute, and then some of them were like, ooh, that's for
Exactly.
children.
Like getting naked.
Yeah.
And climbing into bed with the wolf. Yes.
They made a baby. Yeah. That's when you read the book.
Okay, now, when we read those, was there a moral? Was there a moral to the story?
Don't talk to
Follow your
strangers.
instinct.
Oh, right. Yes, both. Don't talk to strangers. Duh. But nowadays, parents really do drill it into kids. I'm not sure if maybe they didn't so much then,
Yeah.
since she ends up getting, I don't know, but that's a pretty, it's
But
like
look
a
at
scared
how many
straight
times
story.
though, like you could have been like, no, don't do that. It doesn't feel right. Then she did it after all, and it was like, what are you doing?
Well, how many times did you say what big so-and-so did?
Yeah.
So, like,
And that's the thing too. It's like the wolf should look nothing like your grandma.
Yeah.
And you just walked with a wolf, and which another moral of the story is wolves are not your friends.
And they don't look anything like your
And
grandma.
they don't look anything like grandma. It's like, oh, what big mouth you have. Well, of course, it's a wolf. Looks nothing like grandma. Looks nothing like you.
that's true. And what Bailey said, listen to your instincts. Even adults don't listen to their instincts sometimes. You know, they just go right into a situation, and afterwards they say, you know, I had this feeling. Well, listen to your feeling. Listen to that feeling. But you know, okay, as you were talking about wolves, it made me think, though, about Twilight. Because remember, there was Team Edward, who was a vampire, and Team Jacob,
Yeah.
who was the wolf. Well, how many people were Team Jacob? Oh, you guys were all Team Edward?
I was Team Emmett.
It was kind of hard to choose for me.
I was Team Emmett.
Oh,
I was
Emmett.
Team
Okay.
Emmett.
Well, if it was,
Well, if I had to pick between, I would have probably picked Jacob. I would have been Team Jacob.
yeah, see,
I was
Team
more
Jacob.
like-
If I wasn't in love with Emmett, I might have picked Jacob.
Yeah, okay.
He was very good without a shirt on too. So, yeah.
See, so
I think
wolves-
for the
wolves
most part,
can
I
be
was Team
kind of
Jacob.
alluring too, so I guess.
When I heard there's another season of that, I think I saw on Facebook or something. It's gonna be like a part 4 or something.
Of Twilight?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like another saga, and I don't know if it was real or not, but I saw it and I was like,
She was, remember she was gonna write,
Edward's
version.
point of view.
but
Yeah.
then it got leaked,
But
right?
it is
got
a different
leaked
female
online.
character.
Would it be her? Would it be the daughter? Or no? Is it like because they had that one book come out?
Oh, Bree something.
Yeah, like her story,
Yeah.
but it wasn't really like it was
I
a
didn't-
short story.
I didn't
It
read
wasn't-
it.
But I don't know. I didn't
I didn't
see
read
that.
it either, so
I
I'm
just
not
saw the new
sure.
Harry Potter one.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming today, and I hope you enjoyed hearing all about Little Red Riding Hood. So, how about we have some treats?
Best story time ever!
If you're interested in reading more on the red theme, how about this fun book, Petite Rouge, a Cajun Little Red Riding Hood story by Mike Artell. It really is fun. It's cute. Instead of a big bad wolf, what do you think they have? Claude, the alligator. And he's pretty scary. Let me show you as he's coming up to Grandma's house. Oh, one really terrific thing is the language they use. It's very Cajun and just a lot of fun for kids to hear and maybe even to try reading. So the alligator, he's coming up to Grandma's house right here. And listen to this spooky verse. Dat gator swim fast, and den quick as dem mouse. He up on de porch of Grandma's old house. I wouldn't like to see him coming. It's a really fun story, though. It's kind of a trickster thing, and you'll see who comes out ahead and what happens. But give it a try. Petite Rouge.